Drive time. Discussion time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Drive Time Discussion Time, the one-man podcast with one infinite amount of stories and opinions, sitting in one room. I'm actually sitting in my computer office room or whatever. It's a lot more soundproof now that I actually have a headset on for today's episode. I'm not going to be in the car or the truck that I'm usually in. I think the past few episodes lately have been without me in the truck, defeating the whole purpose of Drive Time Discussion Time, I guess. But I'm kind of doing this because I just want to see if people would rather have me in the truck or have me sitting in like an office where it's like, you know, nice and soundproof or a little like echoey, like in the what was it? It was the My Anime List video, not the My Anime. Oh god, brain having a fart right now. Sorry. The last week's episode where I was discussing winter 2020's anime and spring 2020's anime. That one, the audio, I listened to it after recording it. It didn't sound too good because the microphone picked up a lot more of the echoes. It picked up a lot more echoes than I wanted it to, and that's unfortunate. So I guess that's why I am a headset person. Because if you have a headset on, if you can get it in the correct spot, not only can you move your head around and it would still capture the same amount of volume no matter where you're looking at, unlike a microphone stand like I was using last week. But you know, I feel more comfortable wearing a headset. I don't know why. So in the next coming weeks, we will actually be getting our first special guest here in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be with my friend Brody, who I was trying to get on the Otaku Cast for the longest time, but that didn't go quite so well. I'm going to get them on here. I'm going to introduce you guys to them, and we're going to just discuss a lot of things. Games, we're going to discuss Japan. We're just going to discuss a lot of stuff. And speaking of Japan and discussing Japan, today's podcast topic, as many of you guys know, I am planning a trip to Japan this June with Brody. I think we'll discuss more into that once in the next couple of weeks. So look forward to that if you are listening to this and the episodes have not come out just quite yet. Today I want to go over 8 places that I want to visit in Japan. These are like mainly like cities that I just find to be really interesting, and I want to go visit these places in Japan. I'll mention the cities, and then I'll try and go more in depth. The only one you can kind of count, if you're listing cities, there's 7 cities, and there's like one place on here that's not like a city per se. But I'll get into that because it's in the halfway point of this list that I got here. So me and Brody plan on going to Japan. We actually plan on staying in Tokyo, which is the first place that I was looking forward to visiting the most. Tokyo is possibly at the top of my list of visiting because of the fact that it's such a big city, and since I live in a very small town-ish part of the country in America, I kind of want to see what a big city is like. I want to experience big city life. And I know Tokyo is possibly like the top of everybody's list, but I don't want to be like in the mainland. I don't mean like the main part of Tokyo. I kind of like leaning towards kind of like more of the outside portions of Tokyo. And, you know, like places that I'm looking like some places that I'm talking about, like Nusa, Chofu, just to name off a few like cities, or not cities, but like little areas that I want to be in. Maybe Shibuya. Check out Shibuya, Akihabara, of course. I just want to look around the entire Tokyo region, I guess. We are staying just depending on where our Airbnb's at, because we're gonna be staying in an Airbnb, we're gonna be trying to get it as close to Tokyo as possible without being like making it quite expensive. So we're trying to not spend like millions of dollars on this trip. So Tokyo is possibly the biggest place that I want to visit, but number 2 on this list is Osaka. I want to visit Osaka mainly because of its like at night. If you look at pictures of Osaka at night, it is the most beautiful thing you will ever see in your entire life. I cannot stress this enough. How much I love Osaka at night. Walking around Osaka at night and just seeing like all the neon lights and the buildings just basically come to life is amazing. Not to mention the ever like so many amount of game bars or like arcades or stuff in kind of like the otaku culture, I guess you would say, but for more like the people who love to game and stuff like that, kind of like arcadey wise, well, Osaka is one of the biggest places to go. And I don't know if Akihabara or Osaka is more for gamers or something like that. Maybe both. Maybe it's like maybe if you want to go if you're in Tokyo, you go to Akihabara, but if you're in the Osaka region, then you go to many of the game bars and stuff like that. Me and Brody are planning on going to Osaka as well on our trip. And I know one of the first things I want to do when I go to Osaka is find a game bar and just absolutely stay in there for like a whole day, I guess. We're only going to be staying in Osaka for about like less than a week. We're going to be spending like maybe a few days and a few nights there, but we're not going to be spending too much time there. We're spending about a month total in Japan though, so yeah. One place that I do want to check out though that currently we do not have planned on our trip just quite yet is Kyoto. Kyoto is I think this also leads to number 4. I guess I could combine number 3 and number 4 real quick because Mount Fuji is in the Kyoto region, or at least it's like very, very close to it. And I really want to go. I don't want to climb Mount Fuji. I don't not right now at least, because I'm not in the best physical shape, and I would be killed. My legs would be sore, my arms would be sore, everything would be sore. But it would be cool to climb it one day, in the future, like maybe like in a few years or something like that. But Kyoto, I'm a big temples person. I really love the look of like ancient temples in Japan, and Kyoto has a lot of temples and amazing places to go and visit. And I know Kyoto's not the only place to find amazing temples, but it's one of the biggest places for people who want to go see temples. It's one of them, at least. There's a bunch of different cities in the countryside as well, where temples are a thing. And if we're talking about like rural kind of ish, not so big kind of city of Japan, I want to see what Sendai is like. Okay, even though I've lived in a country like I said before, I live in a very small town. There's only like maybe 1,000 people here. There's not a lot of people in this little country, or this county, excuse me, that I live in. And, I mean, it's not a small city like somewhere that you would find in Montana or North or South Dakota, but it's definitely like a small city. Well, small, you get what I mean. Okay, I live in northern Indiana, and there's not a lot of people here, but I want to see what Sendai is like. Okay, I listened to the Abroad of Japan podcast. I don't know if that was a surprise to anybody listening or not, but I've always been interested not only in the big cities of Japan, but also the rural areas of Japan, where it's like, a lot of Japanese folks do not see too many foreigners, and you know, Sendai is not the smallest city, or at least like not the most rural area in Japan, but it is definitely an area that I still want to check out because it's like it's not as big as Tokyo or Osaka or Kyoto. It out of all the places that I'm listing off here, Sendai is probably like the least popular one out of these. Uh, maybe this next one maybe can compete with it, but uh, I want to call me crazy because just a few weeks ago I said that I hate the winter. Well, call me crazy, but I really want to go see this the snow festival in Sapporo. Okay, that is something I actually kind of want to do. I hate the snow. I hate the wind. I hate the cold. I hate the season in general. But I really want to go see the Sapporo Snow Festival one of these years. I just want to see what it's like. Because whenever it snows here, like it's just snow on the ground and that's it. Okay? But in Sapporo, where the Snow Festival takes place, there's lots of snowmen. There's lots of like little sculptures that people do out of the snow. There's a bunch of like amazing lights. There's a lot of good things at that snow festival that I'm really curious to see what it actually looks like in person. And the only way I'm going to be able to do this is if I were to travel in like January or travel in like the very end of January, or at least in the like the middle portion of January, and stay for like a month or so. Because as much as I don't like the snow, I can handle it. Okay, I can handle it, but I'm going to be complaining quite a bit. Number 7 on this list. If you know me personally, you know I do love this city quite a bit. Okay, this city is only an hour away from Osaka, depending on what you're traveling by. Maybe it's like 30 minutes for a train. I don't remember exactly, but it is Kobe. Kobe in Japan. Absolutely one of my favorite cities, or at least one of my top cities that I would want to live in if I do decide to move to Japan, which is not confirmed, but I'm not going to deny that if I was able to move to Japan, I would definitely do so. And Kobe would definitely be at the top of the list of places that I would love to live in. Why? Because of the fact that it's such a port city that there's a lot of things to do, because it's kind of like Osaka and Tokyo in some aspects, but in other aspects it has a little bit of, it has a little bit of freedom, I guess. A lot more freedom. And not to mention that it's right on the edge of right next to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And since it's a port city, depending on if you're in like the middle part of Kobe, you probably won't see too much of, Jesus, hit my cord on accident. The beaches and the ports and stuff like that. But to me, I've looked at pictures of Kobe, and some of the towers and the buildings are absolutely incredible. Okay, they are not to the standards of like Tokyo or Osaka, but it is definitely an amazing city that I want to visit. I don't know what really. If I had to put an exact reason why I love the city so much, that would be tough, because there's a lot of good things about Kobe that I honestly could not really put one reason why I would want to visit. But I just love when I look at Kobe on in like Street View on Google Earth VR, which I've done quite a bit of times. Okay, if you ever have a VR headset, I highly recommend getting Google Earth VR, because not only does it feel like you're in the city that you're in, but it's also a great tool for helping you like understand what the city is like at a person's like eyesight eyesight, where it's like you can look around. It's like, oh, so that's how big this skyscraper is. Because when you look at a skyscraper like in New York City or Los Angeles, and like street view on the computer without like a headset on, sometimes you feel like that's pretty tall. I'll give it that. But then you go on Google Earth VR where you could like your height depending on whether you're standing or sitting. I kind of recommend standing though because how high the pictures are taken. You kind of want to stand but if you are sitting, it still helps. But you look up and like you see the incredible skyscraper. It's just like, holy shit, that is a high skyscraper. Oh my god. But continuing on with Kobe, I've went through the city in Google Earth VR, and I just love it. And it has a few temples. Okay, not as much as Kyoto or not as much as like some other cities with with temples and stuff like that, especially in the rural areas of Japan. But I still want to visit. I still want to visit Kobe, and if I have the opportunity to live in Japan, then Kobe is going to obviously reach the top of the list of places that I want to live in. And finally on this list here, we have Hiroshima. This one is just mainly to see what the city's like ever since World War II. And I've seen pictures of it, and it looks like it never even got nuked. Okay, which is incredible, and that's what I love about that city is like it had a freaking nuke dropped on it, and they were able to get all the contaminated landfill or whatever out of there and rebuild the city. At least, it's incredible that what 70 years does. But I want to visit Hiroshima. I don't know if it'll be on this trip that I'm going on with Brody or if it'll be on some other trip, but I still want to visit Hiroshima and see what the city is like. No particular spot to visit just quite yet in Hiroshima that I just want to visit it. I just want to look around, see what the buildings are like, and see what's all around the area and stuff like that. Honestly, there's a lot of cities that I want to visit in Japan, and these like 7 cities, 8 places, okay, are totally not the only places I want to see. Okay, there's Kanazawa that I want to visit. I want to see what Kofu's like. Okay. Kyoto is definitely one of my like I said, it's third on the list. But if I were to go to like for temple wise and stuff like that, I would go for Kyoto. And I do want to go to Mount Fuji super badly on our trip, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to climb it. I don't know. Odawada, yeah. I always have trouble pronouncing Japanese city names. I'm sorry, but that's another city that I want to visit and stuff like that. And I just now realized that I did make a mistake. Mount Fuji is nowhere near Kyoto. I thought it was, but I was confusing it with Kofu. Okay, which is, like I said, another place that I want to visit. I don't know why I thought Kyoto and Mount Fuji were super close together, but it's Kofu. And I was recommended to live in Kofu by Japanaholic because of the fact that it's like a small city and Mount Fuji's around its area. But if I were to live in Japan, I want to live in a city. I don't want to live in rural Japan. I want to live in a city because of the fact that I've lived in a rural area all my life. I don't want to live in a rural area all my life if I move to Japan. Most of these cities that I've named off are like in the southern portions of Japan. Like the farthest north that I've went was Sapporo, which is in the Hokkaido island, which is very north, I will say that, but that is like the only one that I've really said that is like very north. I said Sendai, which is in the Yamagata prefecture, which the whole entire prefecture of Yamagata I want to visit, but at the same time, like I said before, since I live in northern Indiana in the United States, I really don't want to deal with snow all that much. I can deal with the heat, but I will not deal with the snow. And, Sendai, basically all of the Yamagata Prefecture, now that I think about it, gets a good amount of snow every year. A good amount. Like, I don't like that. I don't like the cold. Okay? And Tokyo never really gets any snow. It never really gets cold there in general, so yay. Another, if I were to like stay in the area of Tokyo for places to visit, maybe Yokohama. I mean, we could probably visit that this upcoming trip here, but like I said before, I am going to be getting Brody on this podcast here in the next few weeks. I mean, I may be a one-man podcast mainly, but that doesn't mean I am not open for any like special guests, or if somebody wants to be on here permanently, I will be fine with that. Okay? It's just I want to just start off this podcast as a one-man podcast and see where things go from here. Okay? And these podcast episodes lately have been quite long, so a shorter one is a nice change of pace. Depending on what happens in the next few weeks, I don't know exactly what episodes will be coming out. Other than I know that Brody will be on here next few weeks. So if you're listening to this before the episodes with Brody come out, be sure to keep an eye out on him, on the titles and stuff like that, because I will mention special guest Brody or whatever like that. Special guest whoever. Okay. This podcast here, I'm going to talk about this podcast here for just a couple more minutes before I sign off for this week's episode. I do appreciate the amount of support that's been given off of this podcast already. I wasn't so sure how this podcast was going to do at first because of the fact that it's a one-man podcast and the audio is never going to be studio quality. Or at least it won't be for the majority of the episodes because of the fact that I want to record whenever I can, however I can, and as long as the audio is passable, okay, as long as it's not crazy, terrible quality and stuff like that. Like, if I had to say the worst audio out of all these episodes, possibly last week's episode where I talked about winter 2020 and spring 2020 anime. That may have been the worst, okay? Because for some reason my living room gives off way too much of an echo, but I think that's because the living room is pretty big. And my room that I'm currently in right now has no echo, which is amazing. But I do appreciate all the support, and I hope that everything goes up from here. I just hope everything goes right. That's all. I'm just worried that this podcast won't do so well, and that's just me having, that's just me overthinking, I guess. So, yeah. So tune in next week for another episode of Drive Time Discussion Time. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and good night, everybody.